If you're selling or renting a property, chances are you're aware of your legal obligation to make sure it's free of such toxic substances as lead and asbestos. What you may not have heard is that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, recently amended its definition of lead poisoning, doubling the number of children diagnosed with this condition. Regulations intended to reduce instances of lead poisoning in the United States have changed many times since the media and public health professionals began paying closer attention to the toxic effects of lead. Navigating the layers and rules can be confusing, so let's talk about lead. We're eForms, the largest online database of fillable legal forms, and in this video, we'll talk about what lead is, why it poses such a large risk to public health, why the CDC is changing its definition of lead poisoning matters, why it impacts homeowners, and more. Be sure to watch to the end of this video to find a link to a lead-based paint disclosure form, which you'll need if you're preparing to sell or rent a property. So first, what is lead? In the early 20th century, lead was added to paint fixtures, pipes, gasoline, and even toys. The naturally occurring metal was used because it was malleable, resistant to moisture, and easily melted. It took a while for public health professionals and the media to understand that lead posed a great risk to human health. But we now know that there is no safe level of lead in the body. We know that exposure to lead can negatively impact health. In children, exposure can negatively impact behavior, learning, brain development, speech, attention, IQ, blood pressure, and hearing, in addition to causing many other conditions. In adults, it can cause infertility, osteoporosis, kidney problems, and cognitive problems, among other issues. Levels above 100 micrograms of lead per deciliter of blood can lead to convulsions, coma, and death. Exposure occurs when you breathe in lead dust or particles, consume foods grown in lead-contaminated soil, and drink water delivered through lead-based pipes. Once exposure has occurred, the neurological impacts are irreversible. In the 1950s, activists began pushing for the elimination of lead from accessible products. Progress occurred in fits and starts and depended largely on political will. In 1978, lead-based paint in the home was banned completely. While progress has been made, lead poisoning is still a significant risk to public health. A national study conducted by Quest Diagnostics between October 2018 and February 2020 found that half of America's children under the age of 6 have detectable levels of lead in their blood. The study showed that the highest percentage of blood lead levels occurred in high poverty areas. In October, the CDC updated the definition of lead poisoning. In 1991, children with 10 micrograms of lead per deciliter of blood were considered poisoned by lead. In 2012, the threshold was 5 micrograms of lead per deciliter of blood. The most recent change reduces the threshold from 5 to 3.5 micrograms of lead per deciliter of blood. What this means is that as a property owner, you are legally responsible for making sure no one buying or renting your home is exposed to enough lead to test more than 3.5 micrograms of lead per deciliter of blood. To be safe, you should have your home assessed for lead, particularly if it was built before 1978. According to federal law, before you sign a contract for a housing sale or lease, you must give your buyer or renter an EPA-approved pamphlet outlining lead-based paint hazards. Disclose anything you know about lead-based paint hazards in your home, provide records of lead-based paint hazards in the home, and build a lead warning statement into the contract or lease confirming that you've complied with all legal requirements. If you're selling a home, you must allow the buyer 10 days to conduct a paint inspection or risk assessment for lead-based paint. You can download our fillable lead-based paint disclosure form at the link below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos that can give you peace of mind that comes with knowing you've done everything in your power to avoid a penalty or lawsuit.